I'm recording this episode of Weird PVD, the podcast, about 48 hours after the horrifying violence at Brown University. There are no words to express how sad I am for the victims and survivors of this tragedy. This kind of thing isn't supposed to happen in a city like Providence. It's not supposed to happen anywhere. But it feels too close to home now. My city is a welcoming, warm community that takes care of each other. And it's horrifying to think that there is someone in this city who would do something like this. I thought about canceling this episode of the podcast because everything is so heavy and we need to hold space for the people impacted by this awful thing. But I also realized that we need a sense of normalcy. My best friend Tori Boone always reminds me that action defeats hopelessness. And we need action in more ways than one now. We need action from our legislators. We need to demand something change. Tragedies like this are becoming way too commonplace in America, and something's got to give. Say their names: Muhammad Aziz Umarzakov and Ella Cook. And in that spirit, this episode is dedicated to the victims and survivors of the Brown University shooting.
Welcome to Weird PVD, the podcast. Every week, your host, Sherry Kasperzak, takes you to the odd corners of beautiful Providence, Rhode Island. From big blue bugs to unique art, from weird history to weird food, you'll never look at Rhode Island's creative capital the same again. Tune in every Weird Wednesday.
So, riddle me this, weirdos. Is there a restless spirit wandering Route 44 through Providence, Rhode Island? Well, some locals will tell you about the restless redhead roaming the stretch that winds between Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Imagine it. You're driving along trying to make it from Providence to Rehoboth, Massachusetts. Snow is cascading in the beams of your headlights. The car crests a hill and a shadow takes shape beneath a street lamp. The void grows larger as you approach it until the details fill in beneath the light. It's a man. His long red hair and shaggy beard stick out like a sore thumb in the bleak darkness. He's wearing a red flannel shirt, dirty jeans, and boots. The most startling part of his appearance are his deep, soulless eyes. You're feeling generous tonight. It's cold after all, and this guy is underdressed for such a frosty winter night. You pull over onto the shoulder. The frigid air gets in before the stranger climbs into the back seat, and you ask, "Where are you headed?" The hair on the back of your neck bristles in the silence as the stranger points forward. You drive on into the snow and into the silence until the hitchhiker starts giggling. It's faint at first, but suddenly he's cackling. The unhinged laughter grows in urgency and hysteria until your heart is racing. You stare wide-eyed into the rearview mirror and see the hollow-eyed man laughing so hard his face looks distorted. The sound of his laughter vibrates in your ears until you can't take it anymore. "Get out!" you shout. You prepare to pull onto the shoulder again, but before you can, the laughter stops. You look into the rear view only to find he's gone. For decades now, stories abound of people seeing this strange man standing along Route 44. They all describe the same man, a scruffy, red-haired man with a beard, a red flannel shirt, and dirty jeans. Some people just see him with his thumb out. But one witness claimed he floated alongside her car window, keeping up with the speed of her car. So, who is this peculiar hitchhiker? Is it the ghost of someone killed along Route 44? Maybe it's the spirit of someone whose life predates the highway altogether. And why does his story persist? Here's a retelling of one person's absolutely terrifying encounter with someone who closely matches the Phantom's description. This comes from r slash scary stories on Reddit from user FMO_JP. It's titled, "We Picked Up a Hitchhiker." These events start with me and two of my friends, Bernard and Hector, coming back from a long weekend at the Cape Cod for any non-New Englanders here. Me and my buddies grew up with each other in Worcester, Massachusetts, and once college came around, we all kind of split up. Hector moved to Providence, Rhode Island, and Bernard was just always busy with school, while I was busy working in the trades. We decided to find a time where all of us weren't busy and ended up renting a house out in Yarmouth for the Memorial Day weekend, just to chill and hit the beach. After a great weekend of getting drunk and partying like we used to, it was time to head home. We took my car there, which was perfect for the beach, my Volvo C70 convertible. After packing all our bags in the car, we started driving back around 9 or 9:30 p.m. on Monday back to Providence to drop off Hector. To beat the traffic, I hopped off I-495 onto Route 44, going through the Taunton area, and was just going to follow that all the way to Providence. It was getting late. It must have been around 10:30ish at this point, and was pitch black outside. No moon or stars in sight tonight. As we were driving, just passing Taunton, about 3 or 4 miles passing the city limits, we see him. A dirty-looking, fiery, long, red-haired and red-bearded looking hobo wearing a red flannel, filthy blue jeans, and a giant backpack on his back, holding his thumb out. As we pass him, I look over to my buddies and say, "Nobody else is going to be on this road for miles, and he's out in the middle of nowhere. We might as well help him out," I say. "That. He looks sketchy, dude," said Bernard. "Yeah, I'm not trying to sit back here with him. Let's just go home. I'm tired as," said Hector. "All right, whatever. I'm stopping for gas at the next gas station, though. I'm almost on E." We drive for about another 2 miles until we see the next gas station, and I fill up my tank and go inside and grab some snacks with my friends. Getting back in the car, I put my key in the ignition, and just our luck, my battery is dead. I knew I should have changed the battery before this trip. I was just being lazy and not even considering it being a problem. As we all stand outside my car trying to figure out what to do and who to call to get a jump, we see the hitchhiker walking up to us. There's no way this guy caught up with this fast. It's impossible. Even if he full sprinted for the 2 miles when we first passed him, there's no fucking way this guy could have caught up with us. "You boys need a jump?" This is the first thing he said to us in a gravelly smoker's voice. How would he know we needed a jump in the first place? We were just 3 kids standing outside the gas pump, and there's no way he would know that if there was a problem, that it was a dead battery. Bernard spoke up. "The battery's dead. Don't suppose you can help us?" "Actually, I can," said the hitchhiker as he reached in his giant backpack and pulled out a jump pack. "Thanks, man. You're a lifesaver," I said. I popped the hood, and he hooked up the cables and turned the jump pack on, and I started my car right up. "Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. We gotta head home now," said Hector with the kind of "thanks, dude, now get the fuck out of here" tone. "Hey, can you boys do me a favor? I just need a ride to Rehoboth. You can just drop me off once we get a little past the town line, and I'll walk the rest of the way. I see that you're driving that way anyway, and I really need the help. Right now, boys," he said. I looked to my friends knowing that we pretty much don't have a choice. I mean, as weird as this guy seems, he did just help us, and he doesn't seem dangerous. Sure, he smells like week old piss, but a 10-minute ride into a town we were already passing through seems like the least we can do for helping us out. "Yeah, sure, man. Hop in," I say. "Oh, thank you, man. I really needed this," the hitchhiker said, with a large toothy grin, revealing his dark yellow teeth and puffy bright red gums. He hopped in the back seat with Hector, who was looking very visibly uncomfortable. Bernard rode shotgun, and I hopped back into the driver's seat and took off from the gas station, back into the pitch black night. Pulling off from the gas station, we start driving with the hitchhiker just staring out the window and not saying a word. It was deathly silent in the car because for some reason my radio wasn't picking up any channels, which was weird because it's not like we were out in the boonies. Sure, it was quiet and not a lot of houses around, but not even a local station. Also, my broke aux cord, so we couldn't even plug in a phone to listen to music that way. After about 5 minutes of silent driving, Hector tries to make conversation with the hitchhiker. So, man, where are you from? No response from the hitchhiker. You from around here? Still no response. You can hear me, man? The hitchhiker breaks out in an ear-piercing laughter. It took us all by shock, and I lost control of the wheel momentarily from the sudden outburst. The laugh was so loud and encompassing, you could barely hear anyone or anything else. Bernard was holding his hands over his ears, screaming, "What the f?" which was barely audible over the laughter. I was cringing and covering my right ear with my hand as my left was holding on to the steering wheel, and Hector was screaming something that wasn't audible to me at the hitchhiker and reached around and grabbed him when he put a hand on his shoulder. The hitchhiker grabbed Hector's hand, turned his head to look at Hector with wide eyes, pulled a knife from his pocket, and stabbed Hector 3 times in the chest. Me and Bernard are staring in awe at what we just saw from the front seat. And as I try to pull over and slamming on the brakes, the hitchhiker lunges at me and grabs the wheel, still screeching his crazy laugh. He yanks the wheel to the right, going directly towards the woods, even though I was slamming the brakes and tugging it back at the wheel. It still wasn't good enough to avoid the tree. I slammed my head on the steering wheel in the crash and was knocked unconscious for a few seconds. When I look around, the front end of the car was smashed in and smoking. The airbags were deployed. Bernard was bleeding from his head just like I was, and Hector was on the floor in the back, clutching his chest, struggling to breathe, blood coming from his mouth. All this with no sign of the hitchhiker. I shake Bernard, trying to get him out of his daze, and as I'm shaking him, I look through the passenger window next to him, and for a split second, I saw the hitchhiker's face in the window, smiling from the outside. I jumped back in fear and quickly wiped the sweat and blood from my forehead out of my eyes. And once I did, the hitchhiker was gone from the window. I frantically looked around, seeing where he could have gone, and jump out the car window with a sudden burst of adrenaline. I run all around the car and in the immediate area, and the hitchhiker is nowhere in sight. Bernard is now coming out of his daze and opens his door and falls out. Running to his side, I help him to his feet. "Hector!" I screamed in the back seat. "Hector, are you okay?" "Help me," he said, gurgling up more blood onto his chin. "Help me grab him." Bernard screamed, still obviously out of it. Me and Bernard pull Hector from out of the wreckage and lay him up against the tree. Bernard calls the cops, screaming to get an ambulance to us and that some homeless guy stabbed our friend and crashed our car. The police and ambulance showed up after 5 minutes. I guess we were lucky that we were so close to Rehoboth, or else Hector might not have made it. As 2 EMTs rushed Hector onto the stretcher, into the ambulance, 2 other EMTs showed up in another ambulance and tended to mine and Bernard's injuries. The police started asking me and Bernard questions about what happened and how our friend got stabbed. We explained the whole situation and that a red-headed homeless guy stabbed Hector and crashed my car. The cops got wide-eyed and looked at each other awkwardly. They put away their notepads and told us they would look into it. What? What do you mean you'll look into it? The guy is still out there in the woods or around here somewhere. He didn't just disappear, Bernard said. We have other units looking right now, son, trust me. Now go with the EMTs. They want to take a closer look at both of you, said one of the younger cops. What do you mean? You didn't even call anything in, I chimed in. Go now, kid. We'll take care of it, the younger cop's partner said. Me and Bernard were quickly shuffled into the ambulance and brought to the hospital. Me and Bernard both knew that something was up. The cops knew something we didn't, and were doing nothing to try to find this guy. For whatever reason, I'm still not sure. It's a year later now, and all of us are still shaken up about this. Hector healed up fine. Bernard moved across the country to the West Coast, and I'm still living in Worcester. The police never followed up with us or tried to ask us more questions about the stabbing or the hitchhiker. I'm surprised they never even tried to pin it on me or Bernard. They just never got back to us. But that's neither here nor there. Oh, and another thing to this day, sometimes when I'm driving, I'll get a feeling that I'm being watched and look over to my passenger's window and see the hitchhiker's face staring back at me, smiling his impossibly wide smile. Now, this account is the only one I could find in which the hitchhiker caused harm to somebody. In most stories, he simply vanishes, as in this account from the r/no sleep subreddit. This comes from user Diesel Monkey. This just happened. I'm sitting at my desk at work, freaking out a little bit. I had to get this down. I live in New England, and every day I commute about 20 miles along a stretch of a back road highway. I usually commute pretty early in the morning, so it's pretty desolate. Sometimes it can be downright creepy driving through the middle of the woods with no one to be seen for miles. This morning was obviously slightly more creepy than normal with the hurricane and all. Most of the small towns in Massachusetts were without power, so long stretches were not only devoid of cars, but also streetlights. Somewhere around the Mass-Rhode Island line, I came around a corner to see a man standing in the middle of the road, waving his arms like something is wrong. He's tall and well built, probably 6'2" tall, 220 pounds, with curly red hair and a beard. I stop in the middle of the road and throw my hazards on. It's the middle of a hurricane and something could be seriously wrong. Someone could be hurt. But I'm also in the middle of nowhere, so I roll down my windows and throw on my hazards. The hitchhiker makes eye contact and starts walking to my passenger door. He has a slow, methodical pace that makes me think that whatever is wrong, he's not in a hurry. As he's making his way over, he passes behind the A beam of my car between the windshield and the passenger door and is gone. As soon as he's out of my line of sight, he just vanishes. Wondering if perhaps he collapsed next to my car, I get out and do a lap around, and he is nowhere to be seen. Now I'm sitting in the middle of the road, pitch black in all directions, being just before 6 a.m., no power, so no street lights. I get the heebie-jeebies and I hightail it out of there. Not 5 miles later, I drive by a small dirt parking lot with no lighting, of course. He's standing there and just watches me pass. It looks like he's laughing as I speed away. Needless to say, I'll be looking for him every day now. So that, my friends, is the chilling tale of the Route 44 Phantom. Let me know in the comments, have you ever seen the Phantom? Where do you think he comes from? Is it the spirit of some person killed along the Route 44 corridor? Is it the restless ghost of a farmer? And if you have a story you would like to have featured on Weird PVD, the podcast, be sure to drop me a line. You can email me at pvdweirdos@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep PVD weird.